Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sujata, the Associate Director with Creating Values. I welcome everyone for today's webinar, which will be led by industry leaders on the topic of business outlook for 2021 and strategizing to gain competitive advantage. A note to our attendees on YouTube, we will be conducting a Q&A session towards the end of today's panel. So if you have any questions pertaining to the topic for any of our speakers, please feel free to use the chat box on YouTube to share those questions. Alternatively, you could also send us an email with your questions on your behalf. I will direct those questions to our speakers. And just one disclaimer, actually, there might be certain technical glitches that we might run into because there have been certain difficulties that we have been recently facing with the Zoom platform. In case the YouTube link gets disrupted or the session gets abruptly, closed during the discussion, please do not be alarmed. You will receive a revised YouTube link wherein you can re-log in and then continue to watch the remaining part of the session. So on that note, just a quick introduction about Creating Values. We are an ISO certified management consulting firm. We provide strategic advisory services to industries and to organizations across industries rather. And the domains in which we provide our advisory services include people and culture, which is our HR advisory arm. Technology and risk is our IT consulting arm, business strategy consulting, brand strategy consulting, executive search consulting. In 7 years of operations, we have completed more than 225 plus projects. We have worked across more than 15 industries, and we are proud to have a repeat order rate as high as 90%. And if you wish to understand any further details about the kind of consulting services that we provide, or you wish to explore the areas of collaboration with us, please feel free to get in touch with either Mr. Vivek Shastri or with me, and we'll be happy to take the discussion forward. So a quick reminder about our upcoming webinar. Initially, we were doing our webinar, that is quarantine webinars weekly, that is every Friday at 4 p.m. But given the current times, we understand that offices have reopened, and so it becomes difficult for everyone to be there for the live session. So we have started doing fortnightly webinars. So our next webinar is on 6th of November at 4 p.m. It will be on the topic of top priorities on the people agenda for 2021. We will be joined by HR leaders from varied industries, and they'll be talking about how business and especially the people agenda for 2021 is transforming, and what are the things that they foresee industry-wise and organization-wise that HR leaders would start building their strategies around and rather working towards. So please make a note of it and join us on 6th of November at 4 p.m. for this webinar of top priorities on people agenda for 2021. With that, we'll be starting our webinar for today. Just a quick note, once again, the thing is that we were to be joined by 3 speakers, along with Mr. T.R. Maheshwari and Mr. Bobby Paul. Mr. Atul Dikshit from Green Panel Industries was to join us for today's session. Unfortunately, he's unwell, and thus he is unavailable for today's session. We wish him a quick recovery, and we hope everything will be fine soon at his end as well. So on that note, let's start today's session with a brief introduction. As you all are aware, today's panel discussion is on the topic business outlook for 2021 and strategizing to gain competitive advantage. The pandemic has had unimaginable business impact and consequences. However, there must be certain actions that can improve the resilience and strength of organizations. So we have invited business leaders from varied industries to talk about what possibly could be the business outlook for 2021 and how shall we gain a competitive advantage. So we have with us Mr. T.R. Maheshwari, ED, CEO, CFO of Sahyadri Industries. He's a veteran and someone who's looked up that by many industry leaders. He has worked in leadership roles at CXO level for many companies. He possesses rich and diversified experience in strategic planning, finance and accounts, investments, audit, manufacturing, mergers and acquisitions, to name just a few of the things that he does. Our next speaker is Mr. Bobby Paul, Affiliate Business Manager with AVL India. He has been associated with AVL for more than 13 years. He's leading commercial, customer service, and strategy functions with P&L ownership of two major business units, driving new business ideas, product innovations, and service delivery models. So it is my privilege to interact with these esteemed panelists and to moderate today's session. I would request the speakers to turn on their camera and to unmute themselves. And now I will be directing specific questions to them. The first question is common for both the speakers. And I would first request Mr. T.R. Maheshwari to share his views, followed by Mr. Bobby Paul on the same. So, Mr. Maheshwari, all the indicators in the market are suggesting a recovery or a rebound. Which are the top recovery trends you are witnessing for your sector in the market?
So, good evening to everybody. As you know that we are dealing with the refit industries. So, our business is mainly related to the rural economy. So, a lot of activities are happening in the rural economy. Number one is the government spending has increased considerably in the rural side. Be it freebies they have given during epidemic, then Manrega also they have increased the wage, and third the monsoon. Monsoon has considerably good this time, which is given a very good impetus to the demand, because the farmers feel that with the good monsoon and the freebies what is being given by the government in terms of the carriers and also the cash payment will definitely help to their total available money, and that's why they are spending good amount on reconstructing their houses and doing lot of things in that rural area. If you have seen the results recently, be it a Britannia or Hindustan Lever, that shows that these FMCG companies are doing very good. And considering, these good monsoon and that thing. And if you see the GST collection also is also improving month after month. So that shows that Government of India, whatever the steps they have taken, appears to be giving impetus to the demand. And we also felt that demand is coming good. And for the 2 quarters last were comparatively better than the last year 2 quarters. So I feel the rural economy is driving at present, which slowly gradually will come to the tier 2 and tier 1. But at present, it appears that all the companies which are mainly dependent on the rural economy are doing good as per the results what is coming nowadays in the stock market.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Maheshwari. So I think Mr. Bobby Paul might have a different take on this question. So Mr. Bobby, the same thing to you. All the indicators are suggesting a recovery in the market. So which are the top recovery trends that you are witnessing for your sector?
I would say good afternoon first, and just continue from what my esteemed panelists said. We are seeing the growth coming in mostly in the automotive industry, which is actually at some point we would have to agree that even the companies would not have expected such a fast recovery in the market. Like if you look at most of the automotive organizations, they have back to the pre-pandemic levels. And the contributors are exactly what my esteemed colleague said. This is basically because the demand is being driven from the rural and semi-urban areas. An excellent monsoon, good harvest, plus lot of stimulus which is being provided by the banking industry also is helping This is what we have understood. If you look at segment-wise, two-wheelers are doing extremely well. They have come back to their earlier levels. Companies which is having much better network coverage in the rural areas, they are seeing faster recoveries. In four-wheeler segment, I would say you see the market leader again coming back with the fastest pace. Maruti is doing extremely well. The same is with Hyundai. But unfortunately for Toyota and Honda, I think the recovery is not so good. The exceptional player in this game in four-wheelers seems to be Tata Motors, which is really growing at much, much better pace than the other peers. Tractor industry, yes, again, contributed from the agrarian sector. They're doing really, really well, exceptional growth. There are month-to-month 80 to 90% growth also shown by a couple of players. There is one segment which is not really showing much promise. That's the commercial vehicles, which also tends to be the barometer for any economic activity overall in the country. So this segment was anyway degrowing for a while as our economic growth was slowing down. Unless and until there is an overall positivity in the market, we don't think the CV industry is going to come back fast. Otherwise, all other segments, we are seeing real good growth. Hopefully, if this festive season does not increase the numbers and we are able to contain the curve like as currently the government is able to do, with much more offers. If you see the news in the last few days, there are real good offers which are available in almost all automotive segment. So I think the segment sentiments are going to stay high, and I wish personally that it should stay high, and I hope that this would stay for the next quarter so that a recovery at this pace, considering the GDP contribution and the employment from this industry, this would be really helpful for overall economic growth of our country.
Certainly. In fact, I think festive season rather might give a better boost to the recovery that is underway. So I think that is something that several industries are looking quite positively at. So Mr. Bobby, I would keep the next question for you, and I want to ask you this. Key top trends which we are witnessing on customer radar are personalization, cost consciousness, and health and safety. Are you seeing similar trends in your industry too? And what are the other trends visible on the customer front?
I would say everybody has accepted that life is not going to be normal. So this is the first realization. All of us tried to fight it off for some time, thinking this is a few months game. Let's stay at home. But now that's over. This new normal has been accepted. So the industries and companies whom we work with are now going towards the next step of rationalizing this new reality. Cost consciousness, extremely high. Only key core business requirements have been addressed now. Only judicial spending has been happening. Another major area which we see is that the buying behavior and the buying center at most of the major accounts which we see are also changing. The budgets available or the approval process, that is also being changed. Very high influence from the finance function is seen even overriding the purchase and the user group. Maybe that's because the budgets available are less. And also a new norm which we are seeing is that the annual planning and budget seems to have shrunk to a quarterly game now. Most of the companies are planning their resources and budgets for a quarterly manner. Maybe that's to take one step at a time. Good initiative, but the reviews and the pressure for performance is becoming much higher. Also, a lot of our customers are currently focusing on recovery mode. They're trying to recap the lost revenues. So there are a lot of initiatives, schemes, incentives in the dealer network and in the industry to ensure that the lost business is coming back. Also, still the operations are not 100% back to the normal or pre-COVID levels. There were issues with the mobility restrictions. There were issues with supply channel restrictions and disruptions. So there's a lot of focus happening on rebuilding the operations. Some companies are going one level up. We see some of our customers looking into rationalizing and rethinking of the organizational structure. Some departments have been merged. Some responsibilities have been shuffled, but not everywhere. And most of these things might not be very visible outside, even for us as customers to them. So, but we are seeing some changes there. So all what I said till now was basically to come out of this pandemic unhurt. But there is, if we have to spot a positive from this pandemic, I would say the acceptance to digital and services and automation from the industry. That's the silver lining. The way companies are embracing digital services and automation has been unprecedented. Ideas or suggestions and evaluations which used to take years together are being done overnight these days. So this is a good takeaway for everybody. And this, I think maybe during the pandemic, we all realized that if we were a bit more connected, if we were having ability to crunch the data a bit more faster, we could have had a lower impact. So this is, to me, a better takeaway, a positive takeaway of this pandemic. Life is not going to go back to what it used to be earlier. And from now on, I would say the digital automation topics would get much more attention and serious consideration in a company's business views. Thank you.
Very rightly said, Mr. Bobby. Yes, there are certain positives, as you've mentioned, that have come out of this pandemic too. Digitization being one of the foremost agenda that has been worked upon by all industries and all companies, predominantly. And if I talk about the other thing that you touched upon the strategies being quarterly based. Rather than annual. So that talks more about, being agile, because organizations now want to just keep on, tweaking the strategy as they move forward to suit the changing market dynamics. So that could be another positive aspect, that is agility that has come out of this pandemic. So my next question, I would first direct to Mr. Maheshwari ji and then come back to Mr. Bobby. So, Mr. Maheshwari, with the consumer becoming cost conscious, there will be impact on bottom line. So, what actionable are companies like yours planning to execute?
See, as Mr. Bobby has said in his statement in the previous question, so everybody is conscious about the cost, be it a customer, be it a companies, and everybody is working on that. It's not only for my company, it is applicable to all the companies, but I'm going to answer your questions. See, the planning is mainly how you plan your supply chain, because supply chain is very important aspect nowadays. How your planning is on the market demand, then your raw material requirement, then your production, then the stocking, so that unnecessary cash flow should not stuck on that. So that is the one aspect, everybody is working on that. Similarly, we have to plan, we have to estimate a cash flow requirement not for immediate, for the next 12 to 18 months, how the cash flow is going to be required. And based on that, you have to see whether there is any gap. If there is any gap, then that gap is to be planned. Otherwise, because of that working capital, generally the company fails. So considering that, cash flow requirement and cash flow gap is an important aspect. One has to work on that. Third is how to convert cash to cash conversion cycle. Generally, what happens is that supply chain demands for the money for stocking and things. Production demand the money for running the plant. There's no any, coordination between two. And then finance become a, bad man in between. So there has to be a conscious and consolidated approach between both the department, so that there should not be unnecessary case get blocked, as well as, wherever it is required, it is given. So then the cycle becomes better. So cash to cash cycle, that looking is very important. That what everybody has to do. And fourth point is to revisit the variable cost. Everybody is working on that. Now, the travel cost, everybody has reduced. I will not say stop, but it is reduced considerably. Similarly, the recruitment fees is there. That is happen. Third is advertisement and publicity. That's a normal now digital platform people are using. But the TV or the magazines advertisement has considerably cut. Though our industry is not in that. But if you see any consumable industry, consumers industry also, FMCs and those things, they've also curtailed their, business. So that is what very important. And the important part is the capex, because generally what happens in the normal business time, everybody plan, let's have a capacity, there would be a demand, this thing, that thing. Now, considering the present circumstances and the constraints what we have to work on what is required. And based on that, we have to plan our capex so that unnecessarily we should not get stuck in the capex. And then, there would be repayment, then the interest costs, and those all elements will come into that. So that is also one of the important points. And considering how to reduce your cost, other than that is the debtors and creditors. These are more important aspect, because how you get better credit from the customers, from your suppliers, and how can you work out a better mechanism with the dealers or the customers so that you get payment fast. So there, again, you have to be very transparent, very open, do a good communication with the suppliers as well as the customers. Then, you will have a better mix available, because you can't put a stick, I will not make the payment on such and such date, or I will not give the credit. You can't do that, because you are not in a monopoly business. The companies which are in monopoly can do it, but 98% is not a monopoly business. So you have to work on that. And as I said, the communication is very important, be it with the customers, be it with your suppliers, be it with your staff. That what you have to work out. And then in the end, you will have a control on your expenses, control on your capexes and the cash flows. Then you will be also, your cost would also be reduced. So the way the customer is conscious, you will also become a conscious. That's what my take on this.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Maheshwari. In fact, yes. So the main perspective is that communicate clearly internally and externally. So internally, it's not just the finance department or the CFO who should understand the crunch on business and who should understand the pressures of business, but every department needs to work in tandem. So internal communication and business acumen by every HOD becomes imperative. And secondly, externally, obviously talk about the entire ecosystem, your suppliers, your dealers, your end customers. So communicating clearly externally, looking at the entire ecosystem and how it will work and get out of this pandemic and rather recover quicker on every aspect. So that should be the focus of all businesses. So Mr. Bobby, if I ask the same question to you, that given that the customer is becoming cost conscious, there will be a direct impact on the bottom line. So what are the actionables that companies like yours are planning to execute?
Thank you. We are in a B2B business segment. So we would, this year, the focus would be in retention rather than conversion and acquisition, because this is a year, very special year. Nothing can be taken granted. So this has to be very clear that any company who is working in the B2B space should be focused about maintaining the current existing contracts, ensuring that you take a good hold of your install base, try to go back to your install base and extract more business out of it. So this is the year of retention. Be focused on what we are doing and ensure that our businesses stay active. Also, another important topic, which is an extension from what we discussed earlier, is understanding the buying center and the changes which has happened in the buying organization. what we have seen is that a lot of projects which used to be discussed and decided on a fast pace, you need to identify which category does your proposal fall in. A lot of things which were discussed earlier are now under hold. So how do you ensure that your proposal falls in the critical phase for the customer? That's also really important. All projects are not going ahead. For AVL, luckily, we had started 2 companies last year for the big data business, one for automotive business and one for non-automotive. And we have started offering solutions in big data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So these products, all the products which we have come out with, luckily for us, this is the right time. The market was pushed to accept digital services, and we were at the right time with the right product. So we are seeing very good acceptance to us, even maybe our building management system for test labs, energy management system, vibration monitoring systems, predictive analytics for equipment failure and maintenance intervals, remote support enabled by artificial intelligence. All our solutions have been accepted, and we are seeing good traction with this. And we hope to leverage this current business scenario and move ahead as this new area is interesting for both of us and customers. So we're getting some attention there. On the transactional side of business, we are working very close to customers to ensure there is ease of transaction and also operation, because we were also used to be in B2B. On a call, you are at site, you're sitting across the table, and all things gets ironed out. Now the table is there, but it's a virtual interaction. So to ensure that you don't lose out in communication, the human touch is not missed out. You're not getting the veil of digital maze is not preventing you from communicating with the customer. This is something which we are really trying to ensure, that the focus is staying on being connected with customer. We are also internally trying to identify, if I may use the rude word, the frustrating topics with the customer because of this non-interfaces which earlier used to exist. And we're trying to work around this by ensuring that we are more personally connected with people and all issues. Because at times when you have a chat with a cup of coffee, a lot of things come out, which generally on an email or on digital platform, people hesitate to share. So we don't want to miss out on those finer points in our customer communications. That's important for us. Also, we are working on, especially on our digital services, we're trying to enhance the operational support phase, so that we walk the journey together with the customer, so that they're not left alone, all by themselves to learn the tricks. So these are the basic things which we are doing, other than and the regular, most of the items which my colleague already mentioned. I would not like to repeat. Every company, this is not an easy phase for anyone. And if someone says that they've come out good, I would assume he's in the e-commerce space. Maybe they're the only guys who are smiling as of now.
Okay, and maybe the healthcare sector. So unfortunately, but true. And so thank you, Mr. Bobby, for sharing your views on it. So Mr. Maheshwari, my next question is for you. Are we going to see different approaches for B2B and B2C? And kindly elaborate on this front.
See, B2B and B2C. B2B is business to business, and B2C is business to customer. And both have the different, the approaches. In case if we go to if we see the B2B business, where generally, the material is purchased for, the selling further or to be used for their consumption. So there, the decision is not that easy. There, lot of, the inquiries, lot of comparison, everything is done, and then, the decision is taken, and that's not a single man. Again, there is a committee, and based on that decision taken. So B2 business is little difficult to do. Similarly, if you see the B2C, in case of B2C, it's a customer driven. So here the customer pride, customer, emotion, those things also come into picture. So that is little easier. And if you see from the pricing point of view, B2B is generally at a very lot of negotiation happen in that, whereas in the B2C, the negotiation is not much. Now, if you see in the B2B and B2C from the marketing point of view, B2B, that marketing material what we put on the platform or a website or whatever, that has to be very specific. That should be focused and that should be featured. What are the plus point in your product? And based on that, B2B companies who wants to go use this platform, go into the detail and do all these plus and minus, and then they decide it. Whereas in case of the B2C, again, that's as I said, it's emotional. Then the brand also plays a big role into that, and then things happen. Now, if you see from the B2B, again, it goes on relationship more than the brand. How your marketing strategy has to be based on the relationship, and the person who decides is your marketing material has to be centered to that. And they have to see the value. They have to see how the time saving is there, how's the cost, and how it is going to the benefit. So these are aspects one has to take into consideration when we do a B2B business. If you take a B2C business, that is little simpler, like that Amazon has come with that scheme. So it's a dhamaka, some other come with a dhamaka. Then there is a queue, and then we come to know the figure that so much code have been sold. So that is a different type of platform where people do it. Here the important is the customer service, whether it is a B2B or the B2C. The customer service is very important. One is the quality, second is the after sales service, and third is how you are responding to the queries, because that plays a very big role. Because though we are not into B2B or B2C, generally we are in between. So I'm just saying from my experience, what generally we used to do in the tiles industries. Based on that, I am just trying to explain you. Then the brand. So here, in case of the B2B, brand doesn't play a big role. Brand is for the entry. Then rest is what value you are putting on that, how that is comparable with others. Based on that, B2B business platform work. Whereas in case of B2C, brand plays a big role because that's a loyalty. So they don't mind paying more. So what I feel is both platform is different, and B2B is generally being used by so many companies to get the better product. And B2C is the normal nowadays, because in this epidemic, when we are not in position to go to the market, so we are using only B2C. So from the B2C platforms, we were buying everything. So that's what is the take from my side for the B2B and B2C.
Sure. Thank you, Maheshwari ji. In fact, yes, there are one very major important point that you mentioned is about customer service. So whichever format of business and a company might be, ultimately your biggest differentiator could become the customer service. How well are you planning? How much of efforts are you investing on that front? And secondly, yes, even when it comes to B2B, ultimately, it would be a different story for companies that are providing products versus the companies that are providing services. So there'll always be a very different strategy that would come up for products versus services. So the festive season positively would help boost the products. And I, coming from the services industry, I just hope the festive season works for us too. And maybe, companies open up their budgets for special, related strategy and business related strategy and enroll us for certain special services.
Correct.
So with that note, I will ask this question, let's move to the next question. And the next question, I'll keep it common to both the speakers. We could again, we could start with Mr. Bobby this time, hear his views, and then go back to Mr. Maheshwari. So Mr. Bobby, what are the steps that companies should start taking from now to upkeep consumer sentiment in 2021?
Thank you. 2021, if you look at this year went at a pace which no other year would have gone. So I would say everybody has already planned for 21, and maybe this is the first time companies have started planning and creating midterm plan to long-term plan with at least 5 to 7 years of window and acting on a quarterly basis. So this is an irony, but we also work on planning. We have seen our customers also asking us about future proposals, budgets. I would say the biggest priority should be to ensure that you stay connected with your customers, especially in B2B. Second, there is a huge pressure which is coming up from very nimble, high speed, small organizations in every industry. With this pandemic and with digital invasion, startup environment is getting very good support from all organizations, and this applies to every industry, every field. What used to be a comfort or a monopoly for all companies, which were traditionally the big players, I don't think is anymore there. So if you are planning to be a major player for the next year at least, you need to be really fast. You need to be having offerings which are tailored to the requirements at the best budget options, which I would say would be scrutinized by 5 to 6 layers of negotiations. And then you might still find that there are few more operators who are cheaper and faster than you. So the next year belongs to the companies who are really fast and really transparent. This is my take.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. Yes, that's an interesting thing. Some learnings for me too from what you've just said. That yes, maybe customization would be the key for 2021. And then when you mention fast and everything, so obviously it is the agility, how quick and how value-driven proposals can be pushed in the market for companies to choose from. So Mr. Maheshwari, the same question to you. What are the steps that companies should start taking from now to upkeep the consumer sentiment in 2021?
Agreeing with Mr. Paul, see that certain things which is very important is a customer. Whichever business we are, whether you are in the services, whether you are in manufacturing, whether you are anything, even in the medical or whatever, the services are very important. That customer is very important. Now, if we really know what is the requirement of the customer, then it's easier to give a solution. But generally, it's not available. So the continuous interaction in the market, continuous, the research, what's happening in the market, be it a design side, be it the, test side, be it the liking side, then it's very easier for us to do the R&D, to come up with a better solution at the lower rate and the good quality and the better product. So that's a continuous process. I don't say this is requirement of 21. In general also that's the requirement. So unless until we don't understand the customer, we don't satisfy the customer, your success is not there. If we still feel in the monopolic business of this thing, then I think there will be a big question mark that ready customer will be available to the competitors and they will take it as an easy gift. I must use that word, that's easy gift, they will take it. So what I say is that how you are very interacting with the customer, based on that, whatever the requirement you have to do in the business, you have to do it. That is number one. Number two is how you can work out, because nowadays the customer is not only coming on the shop or the showroom and then taking the price and deciding. They also do all research. A lot of platforms are available. With that research, they come and their expectation is much, much high. So to meet that expectation, unless and until we do how we reduce our cost, okay? That is, you can have a, what you call asset light model in your CapEx. You can have a different type of approach by importing a technical know-how, then doing here instead of import. So a lot of activities you have to do because customer is very intelligent nowadays. You cannot make him fool. So your groundwork, your marketing team groundwork, whether it is a production team, is very important to work towards the customer need and satisfaction. Then only we will be successful. Be it a 21 pandemic may come, may go, but this is going to be continued. Similarly, unless and until the top management team take everybody into the boardroom and tell, this is what the challenge is. We need a solution. You are the better partner to give a solution and give them freedom to work on the solution. If we do that, I feel, and I have seen the result, is much, much better, and you will have a better product. You have better productivity and your cost would be more controlled. So as the customer is conscious, you also have to be conscious how to service the customer, how to satisfy the customer, and whatever the changes is required to be done, be it a digital, be it any other things, has to be done. That's what I feel we should do.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Maheshwari. In fact, yes, I feel really privileged to be speaking to both of you today on this topic, especially because of the pearls of wisdom that you're sharing. When you say that, yes, first of all, management has to loop in all the important entities and important departments of the organization, give them the freedom, so empower them. And at times the issue with many Indian industries, Indian companies, what happens is that the empowerment is assumed. You just think that if it's a manager, he has a certain level of empowerment, which may not be true. Rather have documented, empowerment. Like, for example, have a delegation of authority in place, which is documented. Because it's not just about who approves what and when and to what level, but it's also about, you're making your organization more resilient from a compliance perspective. And these things, although they might sound very simplistic at times, but during these uncertain times, even these hygiene factors is what defines which company is more resilient and would sail through versus the companies that actually crack under the pressure. So these are some of the things. So the management should loop in and rather do, delegate and empowerment and give empowerment to the people down the line. And when you talk about customer service and actually working very well with the customers, yes, even in services industries, when we are doing projects, we realize, when we are doing any retail sales strategy related projects, we've done host visits at times to even see, how in a natural setup are those people truly behaving with the customers. And those were the inputs that we've actually given. Those observations is what we share back with the companies, and they become eye-openers for them. And although, that's never a part of the defined scope, that is something that we think that we should be an additional thing. So always internally we talk about, you should under-commit but over-deliver to your customers. And that is something that would keep your customers with you in good and in bad times. So these are some of the learnings that even I would take back from this discussion, and I would urge my extended professional network that has joined us on YouTube to make a note of and to discuss and deliberate internally, pull up actionables from these things that have been shared. So with that, we'll be moving to the Q&A session shortly. We have pre-received certain questions from our registered attendees. Prior to that, just a reminder about our upcoming webinar, which is scheduled for 6th of November at 4 p.m., which would be by industry leaders and HR leaders from varied companies. They'll be talking about what are the top priorities on their people agenda for 2021, what are the immediate steps that they are taking, what is it that they've planned for the times to come. So please join us on 6th of November for this interesting discussion. With that, let's move for the Q&A session for today. And as I mentioned, we had pre-received some questions. So I'll just direct those questions one by one. Maheshwari ji, my first question is to you. How can companies who are competing for the same targeted customers create a differentiating factor on the basis of their products and services, as well as on the marketing front? There are few things that you have already spoken about, obviously customer service being one of them. But if on the marketing front, if there is a major differentiator that a company wishes to create, then what could that be?
Okay. So, as you said correctly, I have already covered this subject, but again, I can, because what I practiced last 7-8 months after coming to this company as a sales, the main coordinator here. So what I found is there is always gap, what the customer is saying and what the sales staff is informing you. So that gap generally creates a problem. And generally, the customer get away from you because you are not in a monopoly market. So a lot of things happen in that case. So if you have a direct contact, at least if you make a ABC analysis, and if you go with the A category dealer or the customer or the stockist, if you have a direct, the contact, which happened to be on account of this epidemic, because there was no any other way to sell our product. So I have to talk to my big distributor and those things. Then I come to know a lot of things which was not, the resolved by my sales team or by management, whatever name you call. Okay. But ultimately it's a company. It's not resolved. So it's a better coordination, better interaction. Instead of relying only on the sales team is not good. So that is going to be a big differentiator other than what I have told. So that what I found is workable, and generally it works. Even in my previous organization also I handle like that, and it's always paid. Because then you go, see, generally if you go to anybody that for business and this thing, he comes for the business. But you just generally phone, how are you? You are okay, your family is okay during COVID, he feels okay, he is concerned. So then you create a good closeness with him. Better relationship, better closeness gives the better business. That what is the differentiator other than what I have told.
Sure. Thank you, Maheshwari ji. Yes. So first of all, when you say that at times the true face of the customer feedback does not reach the company, it somewhere either gets it falls through the cracks, or maybe it's the ideology that maker and checker should not be the same. So if the sales is faltering on something, they might not come back with the same negative feedback internally from the customer end. So maybe look for how you can facilitate, how organizations can create platforms wherein the end customer can connect and can share direct feedback with the company. So that channel can be looked into and can be created efficiently. So that is something that can be done. And it's an interesting thing that you've shared, Maheshwari ji. So Mr. Bobby, the next question has been directed to you. So, and you've already even mentioned this point about the auto sector now witnessing a recovery, and rather it is something that was not anticipated, the kind of sharp recovery that is happening. So according to you, what are your views and experiences on this front when I talk about the sharp recovery that is happening in auto sector?
As we said earlier, this is a trend which in May, the auto industry went to a halt. Which was unprecedented. There was hardly any sales. Inventories were piling up. Everything stopped production. And then there was a gradual progression which happened with the inventories moving to the dealer network. I would contribute, like we discussed earlier, mostly driven by the rural and semi-urban requirement, plus the mobility restrictions which were caused by the COVID. This is not only for the new vehicles. You see the same surge in the pre-owned vehicles also. A lot of people who had a single vehicle ownership are now moving to multiple vehicle ownership, not because all the resources are available, but also because health is something which everyone is careful. And this disease, I would say in India, even though the mortality rate is really low, the fear factor associated, and everyone wants to be safe, and that's the right which you and me, every one of us have. So I think this is a priority which take precedence over some of the other buying decisions. So this is contributing quite a bit. This is the one which pushed the business to move on. The basic mobility restrictions caused by the public network. Nobody wanted to be in a shared auto. They moved to a two-wheeler. People who were traveling, sharing, using a lot of ride-sharing platforms. They're no more using them. They wanted to go back to their single individual mobility. Is it good for the environment? I don't know. But for the business, as of now, it looks good. If the festivities don't dampen the numbers, we are hoping that this is going to be a progressive move, because comforts generally accumulated. You generally don't move out of it. So this is a trend which is going to move on, and we are expecting that the business would continue in the good way.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Bobby. So, Mr. Maheshwari, the next question is for you. Real estate and related building construction industries are witnessing slow but steady recovery in 2020. So, what, as per you, should firms in the BCM sector expect 2021 to be like for their business?
Okay. So, I'm from that industry only. What I understand from tiles and sanitary ware, they have done very good in Q2. So I'm not taking this as business is slow. I don't think if business is slow, their Q2 is equivalent to the last year Q2. That's what the results which has come recently from the Kajaria. And what I understand from the industry leader also, that everybody is also having that. And also, particularly in the tile industries, a lot of new capacity is coming in Modi. So that shows that demand is picking up. But here again, I must say here the demand is coming mainly from the rural and the semi-urban. It's not in the tier 1 cities like Bombay, Delhi, no. But it's coming from rural and semi-urban tier 3 and tier 4 cities. And there are a lot of activities are happening. In addition to that, considering the present status of China, lot of the impetus is coming to the other industries which are related to the Chinese, particularly in the building material, be it a tile, be it a sanitary ware, be it a steel, everything is doing good. So that may be one of the factor of having a Q2 better. Because then, the lot of export is happening, which is earlier been coming from the China to those countries. That may be one factor. And second is this good monsoon and good harvest is giving, the hope to the farmers to spend on these activities. I think building material per se is going to be a good for, I think, coming times. I don't think epidemic is going to impact that. But tier 1 definitely still would be a concern.
Sure. Thank you so much, Maheshwari ji. So, Mr. Bobby, we've received one question from one of our, attendees who's attending the live session right now. So it's actually not from your industry, but still maybe, some light if you could throw on it. When do you think hospitality and restaurant business will show signs of revival? And if it's related, I mean, there's another part to the, I don't know if it's a part to the same question, but then the next part, I'll keep it for both the speakers. But for you, Mr. Bobby, right now, this part, that when do you think hospitality and restaurant business could show signs of revival?
I would go back to the southernmost part of India. The festival season had really made a big mess, like the the COVID numbers in Kerala shooted up so much post Onam festival. That was the major first milestone festival which comes in our festival calendar. So that took us back for few months. Actually, everything went back to barrels and lockdown and containment in those states. Now, restaurants, at least for Indians, eating out is still a kind of luxury. It's a time which you spend. It's like going for a movie. Can you do it without a movie? Yes, you can probably manage. So from my understanding, I would say a quarter more would be difficult for this industry, but not for the hotel industry, because I'm seeing that industries are operating quite well. The travel industry, airlines, they are now getting good bookings. If flight travel and train travel starts gaining momentum, lodging and boarding and the hotel, this industry needs to have some uplift. So I think the hotel industry would slowly start seeing a leg up, but not, I don't think for the restaurants and other, I think it's a 1 quarter away game. Maybe Q1 of 2021, you would see more movement. That's my assessment. I'm not an expert. I would put a disclaimer.
Certainly, it was a curveball for you.
Yes.
But yes, if I read the signs around, even if I look at this question, then for restaurants, maybe dine-in would still take time the way you are mentioning. But I think takeaways have already picked up. And it would still furthermore go ahead, because it also, there are people have their own ways of looking at it. One way is that, yes, maybe people are already bored of cooking themselves. That's one aspect of it. But the other aspect is that I have also seen people order in with the awareness that they are supporting a business. They're not doing it just because they want to enjoy a certain meal, which is not a problem in itself, if you look at the sentiment, but rather they are ordering in with the view that those businesses also need a boost. And so people are considering takeaways or ordering in as still safe versus maybe dining in. So maybe that is one aspect that all restaurants, even the ones which offer fine dining experiences, they can look into as a fallback for at least for a quarter or so until things resume.
What I observed, Sujata, in this case, that particularly the big, multi-complexes, lot of, the ladies started supplying the good stuff. And that's a normal business is happening. Particularly in the Bombay, I have seen, you get everything what you want. They made a group. In group, they, they demonstrate what they can supply at what rate and this thing. And then people give the feedback. This is very good. This is this. This is this. And all ladies are enjoying that. That I must say. So eating is started. Now, whether that eating, as you said correctly, in the restaurant or the takeaway or like this is happening.
Yeah, so the way Maheshwari ji has said, it is still more of a community-based approach. If we talk about, connecting on a personal level, because even that's a business model, ultimately, even at a small scale, but it is a business model. And it's a very good example of connecting emotionally with your customers. So that is something that, maybe even tier 1 cities, the way Maheshwari ji has given an example, have opened up to. So my next question, like I mentioned, I want to keep it a little open for both the speakers, and both the speakers can share their views briefly on it. What, as per you, is the impact of economy as a result of job loss and recession in varied sectors, and especially in hospitality and restaurant sectors, because of the job losses that has happened? So what is the impact of on economy?
So I think there is a considerable impact of the job losses, particularly in the hospitality or the travel or in this restaurant business, because one is the, particularly in the big cities, the cost of running those hospitalities or the businesses is much, much higher. And keeping shut for say 7 months or 8 months or 9 months, you don't know when it will open, when they come to that level. I think everybody is very stressed and they have the pressure from the financial institutions also. Luckily, Supreme Court has given relief up to 2 crore, no interest on interest has been put. So I don't know how many restaurant or the hospital business will fall into that. So there is a big impact, and we are getting a lot of CVs from such industries for, be it a company secretary, be it a chartered accountant, be it a relationship manager. A lot of CVs are coming from these industries. So I think that impact would be much, much more, and it will still continue. Whatever we say for till this vaccine, so-called what they are saying, whether it is a free or chargeable or whatever, we don't know. But that's all political game. Unless until it come and available, because with that you're not getting cured from this, but at least the intensity can reduce, so that fear of you going to the ICU get reduced. So I feel till that there would be a question mark, particularly, the company like Thomas Cook or these, I think they're in a serious situation. What they have to do with this stuff.
Sure. So, Mr. Bobby, the same thing to you, the impact of job losses on economy, and especially from these sectors, that is restaurant, hospitality, travel.
I would say tourism and hospitality, as we talked earlier, when people stop moving out, they stay only or make only travel, which is basically really, really required, either to work and get back from home. I know people who have not even visited an ATM for months, not because they have surplus cash at home, but they're trying to avoid it. Any visit outside is been not promoted. It is difficult for any businessman to run this enterprise. I mean, end of the day, businesses are meant to make profit. And even though we talk about employee engagement, at times it reaches a point where it's difficult to engage more. I think I completely agree with my fellow panelists that till the time there is a positive movement in the industry, the sentiments would stay low. And also another factor which would slow down the job recruitments would be the fact that a lot of work are now being distributed among the existing people, and they're able to fulfill this. So a lot of job has become redundant. A lot of automation, digital applications are coming in. So I don't know whether we would go back to the same levels in the same organization. Definitely there would be new job opportunities, but people would not be going back to the same number of employees, because every company, we were in a good run. So there were some slack, there were some bench strength. I think that's not going to go back very soon.
Sure. So yes, rightly mentioned, Mr. Bobby. So it's not just about the industries which were impacted heavily, but even industries which were even marginally impacted. They did go in for manpower optimization, as you've rightly mentioned. And Maheshwari ji, the other point that he mentioned is really nice, that maybe the industries which are doing well can open up and recruit the talent which is now available in the market, and be a little more open towards what is the past experience versus the potential of the candidates. So that could be one of the positive things that managements from these well-to-do industries can do for for the bigger good, maybe. And okay, so my next question, Maheshwari ji, is for you. Why is it that the stock markets seem to be doing well despite COVID-19 pandemic? And this has been directed to you.
Okay. See, I think there's so many factors which we have to look into. Particularly if you see the India, as I said in my continuous discussion, India is 70% dependent on the rural economy. If your monsoon is good, the demand is going to be the good. So 70% of your GDP growth, what you call, will come from this aspect. So definitely there would be a plus point for the stock market. That is number one. Coming to the second point, that the government policies nowadays, whatever they are doing very cautiously. After the Sitaraman come with that finance budget where she made some mistake, which resulted into a negative side to the stock market, and then they corrected. So now they are not doing anything which disturb the sentiments of the investors. Because now China is in the problem, not because of the India and China issues, but generally because of that COVID, whatever things have happened. So there is a good opportunity to the India to bring those investment into the India. For bringing that investment, you have to create the environment. Environment is not only speaking politically. You have to display. You have to demonstrate. So like that, they have done, labor code they have brought, that up to 300 workers they can, hire and fire. A lot of other things they are doing. That is just to invite them and bring them. If they come, hopefully they will come. So that will give a better opportunity for employment, and the issue what we have in India get resolved. That is also a second point. Coming to the third point, that is mainly linked to the oil prices. Now, if you see the oil is ranging from 40 to 45. Okay, oil per barrel, USD. So, which is giving to the Indian government a big surplus, because they have not reduced any price. On the contrary, they have increased. Okay, so they have created a very good, the cash flow inflow to spend on these all activities, be it stimulus first, second, now they're talking for the third. Similarly, they are talking for the COVID medicine free, what are the other freebies they have given. So they are not hoping much negative impact on their final figure. So that's the third thing. And fourth thing, that's again international. What's happening in US, whether Biden is coming or the Trump is coming, market has discounted that. That's the fourth. And fifth is the most important, is people are now feeling COVID is getting slowed down. Okay. From the numbers. Now, actual reality, nobody knows. Whether they have reduced the testing, whether they are not reporting correctly, we don't know that part. But what are the numbers? Earlier was 1 lakh, now today is 50 lakhs, 50,000. And the deaths have also reduced. Then what people feel, that initial stages, the medical facilities were not competent enough to handle it. But now suppose if somebody is getting COVID affected, will get better treatment. So that is giving a better, the feeling that fear factor is going slowly, gradually. And bringing that COVID vaccine, which now hopefully may not be end of the year, maybe in the first quarter of the year. So people feel business will grow. So whatever, the impact happened in March to the share market is slowly, gradually people are coming to that. So these are, I think, 4, 5, and inflow is much, much more. Because share market works on the inflow. So if the inflow is good, even TR Maheshwari issue the share in his name will get fully subscribed. So that what is general, practice being followed. So these are the reasons, because I am also actively participating in the share market. So that's what is my analysis. I may be wrong, I don't know.
No, Maheshwari ji, I'm sure. In fact, the day you launch TR Maheshwari shares, please let us know.
I just joked. Okay.
No, sir. We trust you on that. So, Mr. Bobby, the next question is for you. Somewhere this was a tiny bit touched upon about the positives of the pandemic. So the biggest positive impact that the pandemic has had is the refocus on innovations. by companies and industries. So what are possibly the top innovations that you foresee in personal mobility and the subsequent customer experience in 2021 and beyond?
If you talk globally, this COVID pandemic, since AVL, we're an Austrian-based company and we are actively engaged in all automobile industry globally. We see that the push to electrification or cleaner energy is going much faster globally. Unfortunately, in India, we don't see that push, but in other countries, the investment on old technology, fuel and all IC engine, that's been kind of completely coming to a halt. It's all new technologies that's moving in. Second, in India, maybe we were moving towards a shared mobility country. If you remember the way Ola, Uber, they actually created a new industry, which was no more there. They brought dignity to a profession which was not really respected. So that we're not very sure whether this is going to go in the same way. Even the push for government buses, public transport, metros, all of those things might get slowed down for a bit, because till the time there is a positive affirmation of a vaccine, or I read it somewhere, I'm not very sure. It said that the death rate in COVID in India is as close to a common flu currently. But this, I know it's a very simplistic view of things, but maybe that's the fact. We don't know. Maybe how many people die with flu in India is never recorded. So we never knew these numbers. This is recorded, so we have the numbers. So till the time this fear goes off, personal mobility would be the focus. That is individual mobility, shared mobility, and future mobility concepts. This seems to be taking off because companies are not very keen on investment policies now. Everybody is in a wait and watch policy. For at least for the next 2 quarters, no significant investments are foreseen from the OEMs. Having said that, like my fellow panelists said, government is ready with huge investment plans and stimulus packages that can make a shift in any direction. So if they come with a wonderful vehicle scrapping policy or a huge tax incentive for electric vehicles, then you could see a huge shift, because our industry follows the incentive. So till now, till something like that comes through, I don't see much changes coming.
Certainly. In fact, rightly mentioned, if, if to promote hybrids and to promote electrical cars, if there is a positive impetus from the government side on taxation, so that will be a positive, not just from the consumer end, that is, but also on the environment front. Yes, people have moved towards personal mobility given the current pandemic and the fear of getting infected. But yes, as you had touched upon earlier, that still would have a negative impact on the environment. So then why not look at innovations either in short term or in a long term basis with regards to the, the research and developments that happen on that front. So that is one of the aspects that needs to be looked into. Maheshwari ji, we have received one last question, and that question is directed to you. I understand maybe it is for the industry perspective only. So it is that will limited travel by marketing personnel have an impact on increased sale, especially when sampling has to be done?
Can you repeat, please? In between, your voice was not clear.
Sure. Will limited travel by marketing personnel have an impact on increased sale, especially where sampling is required in the industries wherein sampling is more of a focus?
I must say there won't be much impact, because the sampling generally is not taken by the sales team with them to give them, because what is the requirement of the samples and those things are based on the inputs what we get from the dealers to the sales team, and sales team then give to the company. These are the requirement of the samples. One is that the normal one. Then coming to the new samples, that is based on the new launches and those things. So that as such it's going. So I don't think there would be impact on sampling. Coming to your second question in that, whether there is a impact on the increased sales. I must say, with this platform, be it a Zoom or the WebEx or the Google Meet or the anything, connect with the top, with the dealers have increased, which was not the case earlier. Earlier, dealer used to ask the time to talk to the top person. Whereas now, the marketing head or the even managing director, even executive director, they talk to the big dealers, big wholesalers, big customers directly, because the requirement is not only a sale, a connect, because connect has become more easier, more vibrant nowadays, maybe thanks to the COVID, but now that become a new normal. I don't think in the normal time, this connect will go, this connect will be there. So I have seen, whatever the results I have seen in the building material particularly, be it a cement, be it a steel, be it a tiles, the result is much, much better. If there is an impact, that what the question is, because of that samples or because of the non-visit, then there would be impact on the sales. It's not there. On the contrary, dealer or distributor don't want to meet you because they also have the fear that you are carrying a asymptomatic symptoms may come to me. So instead of that, he will meet to the dealer customers. He will talk to the customers. Then give a chair to you to sit. So they also want to avoid. So in my opinion, it's not the case. And I felt in my industry also has done well without the, extensive travel.
Sure. Thank you, Maheshwari ji. So those were the set of questions that we had received for the Q&A. But prior to a wrap to today's session, I would request both the speakers, if there are any, final viewpoints that you wish to share with our attendees pertaining to the topic or otherwise, please feel free. So Mr. Bobby, if you wish to share something, and then we could go back to Maheshwari ji for the same.
I would say it was a really nice session. I have nothing more to add. It was a great session, a good experience. Thank you so much for this platform. And thank you for everybody who has joined in. And also thank you to my fellow panelists. Thank you. It was a good session.
Thank you, Mr. Bobby. So, Mr. Maheshwari, any final comments?
I must thanks to the Creative Value who have given that platform to discuss a lot of the practical things. And the questions which have come is really good. And with some were connected with the today's topic, and stock market things were not connected with that. But I'm happy that those questions have come. And third thing is, such type of interactive sessions always help to the fraternity and to the people who have joined. And I think for their business, they may take some takeaways from that and will definitely help. And the people like us also, such type of the interaction always help, because nobody is 100%. Always learning is not a ending. So always learning is there. So I think it's a good exercise, good interaction, good discussion. Congratulations to the Creative Value for arranging such events. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. In fact, both the speakers have been very humble and very proactive and forthcoming for this session. So thank you so much. So yes, the pandemic has been difficult. It's been difficult for every industry in some form or the other. But we have to move forward from it. There are positives that organizations need to take and learn from them. One is the digital transformation roadmap. So have a strategy in place, get it designed, be ready. It's better to be ready for the change. It's better to start working towards it and not wait for a disaster or a pandemic as we are in current times to be hit by it, to to have a reactive measure in place. So rather be proactive, have a digital transformation strategy in place, build it, work internally, and as our speakers have mentioned, empower your people, your employees internally. So those are some of the important interventions that despite the budget freeze, despite several other resources that might be impacting you, still are important interventions that you can utilize the current time to work upon, and think creatively and innovative. Necessity is the mother of invention. So this pandemic is the right time when organizations and industries can look internally as well as externally and try to innovate what is the best possible solutions that they need to provide to their people internally and to the customers externally. So these are some of the things that are on the positive note despite the difficult times that we are in. So I take this opportunity to first of all thank our attendees who joined us on YouTube, all the people who have been regulars with us since April for these quarantine webinars that we have been conducting. I also thank Mr. Maheshwari and Mr. Bobby Paul for being here, for being a part of this panel discussion, for actually sharing some very practical, practical examples and giving certain actionables to professionals who would view this session. So thank you so much, Maheshwari ji, as well as Mr. Bobby. And I just hope Mr. Atul recovers soon, and maybe he's a part of some of our subsequent panel discussions that we might have. So thank you so much. So with this,
thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody.
Thank you. Good day. Bye-bye.
Wish you the same. So this is Creating Values Cubinar Fridays signing off for today. We hope that you would join us again on 6th of November at 4 p.m. for our next Cubinar. Thank you so much.